The glass hit before her voice did. Cold wine splashed across my face, soaked into my blouse, and dripped down my collar. For a second, no one moved. Forks hovered. The room held its breath. Kayla didn't lower her arm. "You said no," she shouted as if I'd committed treason in front of her royal court. To my mother, I didn't answer. I didn't blink. I took the napkin beside my untouched salad and patted my cheek. The cloth turned red. My hand shook slightly. I folded the napkin in half and kept wiping. She stepped closer. The stem of her empty wine glass still clenched in her hand. "Do you even hear yourself? You think keeping that SUV makes you powerful? My mother needs it. You don't. You're being selfish." Across the table, Evans stood up. Good, I thought. He'll say something now. He'll stop her. He looked straight at me. Not at the wine, not at the glass, not at the silence wrapping the room like a wet sheet. "You deserved that," he said. And just like that, the breath I didn't know I was holding left my body. I didn't wipe again. The stain was already set. I adjusted the chain on my wrist. My fingers brushed the leather loop still around my key. Not the SUV key. I never kept that one in my purse. Kayla was still talking, her voice rising. Ruth sat smugly behind her, fanning herself with the dinner menu. I looked at Evan once. Just once. His face was already turning away. I stood up slowly. My chair made a soft sound against the tile. No one moved to stop me. No one offered a towel. I walked past Kayla's glass, still wet with wine, and kept going until the hallway swallowed the noise. Outside, the night air clung to my skin. I didn't look back. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small black key case. Inside, zipped behind a cloth divider, sat the real set. The only set that mattered. The valet looked up. "Ma'am, do you need help?" "No." I handed him a tip without taking the car. I kept walking. Down the street away from the party, past the valet stand, past the hotel lights. My blouse clung to me like a second skin. My chest felt cold. My steps stayed steady. I didn't cry. Not then. The stain on my blouse kept spreading a slow bloom of burgundy, crawling across white fabric. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights. I stood in the kitchen, wine drying on my throat, and watched the silence fill the room. Then I opened the drawer beside the fridge. The folder was still there. Red. Unlabeled. I placed it gently on the table and sat down in front of it. My hands were quiet now, and I watched the stain finish its shape. I filled the sink. No detergent yet, just hot water. The blouse slid in red stain, blooming like a wound reopening. I didn't scrub. I pressed the fabric beneath the surface and watched the fibers drink it in. Bubbles clung to the silk. The water turned pink. I stood there with both hands submerged. The steam rose. My breath didn't. My fingers found the mark. I didn't rub it out, just pressed, held, let it settle. She had aimed for my face, but it was the chest that caught most of it. White silk, ruined. Expensive, yes. But that wasn't what stuck with me. It was Evan's voice. "You deserved that." Not a shout. Not even anger. Just agreement. The faucet dripped. One drop. Then another. I dried my hands on the edge of my skirt and walked to the side drawer. It clicked when I opened it, a drawer I hadn't touched in months. Inside, folders neatly stacked. I slid out the one labeled corporate, active, still sealed. I laid it on the table and left it closed. Then I went to the cabinet where I kept the older phone, the one not synced to any family group, any text thread, any holiday reminder. It buzzed to life after 3 seconds. One app, one tracker, one vehicle. The SUV lit up on the map. Location 2.3 miles west. Direction southbound. Speed 45 mph. I zoomed in. Kayla wasn't just driving it, she was headed downtown. The same downtown where Ruth liked to get her hair blown out and nails done every Friday. I tapped once. A breadcrumb trail appeared. Spa, restaurant, boutique. She wasn't borrowing it. She was parading it. I walked back to the sink. The water had gone cool. The red had faded slightly, not completely. I drained it, wrung the blouse gently, and hung it on the line by the window. Sunlight hit the stain, still damp, still there. I made coffee, black, no sugar. Sat down in front of the red folder and didn't touch it. The map buzzed again. I picked up the phone. Location Monarch Spa. Status parked. They didn't wait, didn't ask, didn't even try to pretend. They acted like it already belonged to them. I watched the map in silence. I didn't blink for a long time. Then I opened a new note in the phone, titled it Entry 1. And I wrote 3 things. GPS log, unauthorized use, event, March 9. Wine. The app refreshed. She was still parked there, still smug. I didn't call Evan, didn't text her, didn't rage or plead. I closed the phone, placed it beside the folder, and stared at both. The coffee had gone cold. I didn't reheat it. I reached for the napkin still folded on the edge of the table, the same one I'd used the night before, and I wrote a name on it. I unlocked the door before he knocked. Evan stood there, tie half done, holding a manila envelope. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He didn't hug me. He went straight to the kitchen table like he used to when he was 15 and failing math. Only this time, he didn't bring homework, just a contract. "I wanted to explain yesterday," he started. "Kayla was emotional. But you kind of put her in a tough spot, Mom." I poured 2 mugs of coffee, set his in front of him, left mine untouched. He pulled out papers. "It's not a big deal. The SUV, it's not like you really need it. Ruth's car broke down. We just figured, since you're not driving much anymore." I sat across from him, both hands around my warm mug eyes on the steam. "It's not even about the car," he continued. "It's about making things right. Kayla's mom has done a lot for us. This is just a gesture for family unity." He slid the envelope toward me. The stapled pages peeked out. "Her lawyer drafted it," he said too casually. "Simple stuff. You transfer the title Ruth covers fees. That's it." I took the papers, flipped through them slowly. Legal terms. Blank lines, a signature box. I didn't speak. I didn't nod. Halfway through the packet, I placed it flat on the table, turned slightly, and picked up my phone. I held it above the page for a few seconds. No sound. No flash. Then I folded the pages neatly and handed them back. Evan smiled, relieved. "You don't have to decide now, just think about it." I stood, picked up his empty mug, rinsed it under the tap. "Kayla didn't mean to embarrass you," he said behind me. "She just reacts fast. But once this is done, things will be better." I dried the mug, placed it upside down on the rack. He stood, adjusted his tie again. "We're all trying here. No one's trying to push you out. But stuff like this, holding on to things, makes everything harder." I walked him to the door. Didn't touch his arm when he passed. He paused. "I told Kayla you'd come around." I didn't answer. The door closed. I went back to the table, picked up my phone, and opened the photo. Each page captured clearly. I saved them to a locked folder. Then I scrolled through our message history. Dozens of texts, photos, happy holidays, one from a year ago. "Promise me you'll never feel left out." Okay. I deleted everything except that one. Then I turned off the coffee machine. Steam was still rising from my cup. I didn't sip it, just sat with it hands steady. Through the window I saw the SUV drive past. I wrote down the time, the license plate, the route. And I wrote 3 more words underneath the note I'd started: transfer request Ruth. Pressure verbal witnessed. Contract scanned. I opened the drawer. The key was gone. Not misplaced. Not buried. Gone. The red pouch where I kept the spare sat open, zipper still halfway. I hadn't touched it in weeks. Only one other person had access to that drawer. I shut it slowly, counted to 3. Then I looked at the GPS again. The SUV was moving. Again. Same route. Same driver. I opened the footage log. Kayla's voice filled the kitchen. Honestly, who still lets their mother keep things under her name? She's lucky we even let her stay in town. I saved the clip. Labeled it Use Without Consent, 4.10. By evening, their photos started showing up. Online, dinner party, long table, string lights, Kayla in the white dress, Evan in the jacket I bought him last fall, Ruth holding a wine glass standing next to my SUV. I made a sandwich. Bread, cheese. Nothing else. Ate standing at the sink. No plate, no silverware. The dishwasher hummed in the background, full of their coffee mugs from last weekend. I didn't empty it. I opened my laptop, logged into the insurance portal, and searched the policy number stamped on the SUV's dashboard. Policy holder Solberg Textiles Inc., covered vehicle SUV, commercial use, business asset protection. Still active, still under my name, still corporate. I downloaded the full file, printed it, stapled it, taped the cover with a note, asset tag 06 not personal. Unauthorized use, SEER, liability. I added it to the red folder. I didn't call Evan. I didn't write Kayla. The sandwich sat heavy. I left the crust on the counter. They hadn't invited me to the dinner, but they'd parked the SUV out front like it belonged to them. Like I was a ghost they'd already erased. I walked to the back closet, opened a locked box, and pulled out a fresh notebook. Black cover. Blank inside. I wrote the date at the top, April 10th. Underneath, evidence week 1. Key missing GPS route. Dinner photos. Public insurance tag confirms ownership. I flipped the page and wrote one sentence. No longer welcome. Leverage clearer. Then I closed the book. The lights from across the street flickered. I didn't turn to look. I sat by the window sipping water from an old mug, the one they said was too plain for guests, and I watched the tail lights disappear into the dark. I unlocked the side gate. Cora slipped through coat zipped to her neck, no briefcase. We didn't greet. She followed me to the kitchen, sat at the table, and placed a manila folder between us. I poured coffee. No sugar, no cream. She didn't ask. I slid my folder toward her. Red. Unlabeled. Inside the contract, Evan brought GPS logs, printed insurance policy, a photo of the SUV parked outside Monarch Spa. Cora flipped slowly, no reaction. Her fingers didn't pause until the 3rd page. She tapped it once. Corporate, she said. I nodded. She took a breath, leaned back. And they've used it weekly. I turned the GPS app toward her. She scrolled. Her mouth pressed flat. They're leveraging an asset under false title, she said. If anything happens during use, it comes back to me, I finished. She didn't touch her coffee. I reached for the folder she brought but didn't open it. Just ran one finger along the edge. Once, then left it closed. Cora opened it for me. Top page, my signature. Date stamped 3 years prior. After Henrik died, you updated your internal policy. Do you remember? I looked down, my initials clean and clear. She flipped the page again. There's a revocation clause here, she said, tapping the 2nd paragraph. Any company asset misused for personal benefit, especially if transferred or coerced, can be legally frozen and reclaimed. No notice required. I didn't speak, just kept my hand on the folder. She placed a 2nd sheet beside it, a notarized copy. Still valid, she said. Still binding? I leaned back. The sunlight touched the top of my hand. Warm. They don't know, I said. Not yet. We sat like that for a moment. No pen, no papers moved. Then Cora asked, Do you want to press charges? I shook my head. Not yet, I said. Let them plan their party. Cora smiled faintly. Then I'll stay ready. She closed the folder, slid it back to me. Log everything. Document tone, dates, language. I already had. She stood, buttoned her coat. At the gate, she paused. You don't have to warn them. I won't, I said. She nodded once and left. I went back inside, picked up my black notebook, added a line, Clause 14, enforceable. Cora confirmed. I placed the notarized copy under the red folder. Then I poured the coffee Cora hadn't touched down the sink. Rinsed the mug, dried it. Outside, a car door slammed in the distance. I didn't flinch. Inside, everything was quiet. My name, my policy, my terms. I turned off the kitchen light and let the rest of the house stay dark. I parked 2 blocks away, shut off the engine, sat still. Headlights from passing cars blinked across my windshield. I didn't move. Just watched the valet line swell in front of the country club. The SUV pulled in 5 minutes later. Kayla drove. She stepped out wearing white, again the same tone she wore when she threw the wine. I watched her pass the valet the keys like she owned the vehicle, like it had always belonged to her. Cameras flashed. People clapped. She waved. I stayed leaning against the hood of my car. Coat zipped up. Hands in pockets. She hugged Ruth near the entrance. They posed next to the SUV. Kayla laughed loudly, then shouted, "Finally upgraded from all that cheap family stuff. Time for better things." Someone offered her a glass of champagne before they even stepped inside. She never looked back, never checked mirrors, never noticed the small black lens still recording from beneath the rear view. I had installed it 2 years ago. After the second time the company vehicle came back with scratches no one could explain. She had never asked what that blinking red light meant. She thought she was clever. The loudest people often do. Inside the country club, the party swelled. Guests arrived in clusters. I saw Evan's silhouette near the sidebar nodding politely, but his smile didn't quite hold. I stayed where I was. Not hidden, not close. Just watching. One man gestured toward the SUV asking a question. Kayla grinned, tossed her hair. "It's mine," she said loud and sharp. "I don't care whose name's on the paperwork." Someone laughed. Another clapped her on the back. I clicked a button on my old phone. The camera feed froze, saved time-stamped. Then I turned and walked back to my car. The night was crisp. Leaves scratched along the curb. I drove slowly, no music, no radio, just the rhythm of my own breath. When I got home, I made one call. No answer. So I opened my laptop, opened the folder marked Private, AOD, and dragged the clip inside. Then I forwarded the file to an address labeled Cora. Final. No message, no subject. Just the sound of Kayla's voice echoing through a luxury car she didn't own. I shut the laptop, picked up the black notebook, wrote down 3 words. Timestamp. Transfer. Disregard. Then I poured myself a mug of coffee, sat on the floor beside the couch. I didn't turn on the lamp. The heat from the mug touched my fingers. My name was still printed on the title, the insurance, the corporate tag. She could wear white. She could hold glasses. She could lie to crowds. But her voice had told the truth. And now it lived somewhere else. I turned off the burner, let the pot sit. The phone buzzed twice on the counter. Evan. "We'll send someone to pick up the title this week. Don't make it awkward." No greeting, no question. I dried my hands, picked up the phone, typed slowly. "Me? I'll bring it to the party myself." 3 dots appeared, then stopped. A pause. Then Evan, "Thanks, Mom. That means a lot." I set the phone down. Sat. No movement for a full minute, just stillness. My breathing came even. My palms didn't sweat. My pulse didn't race. Across the room, the red folder sat closed on the table. The notarized clause beneath it, insurance copies, GPS logs, the contract scan. I reached for the manila envelope Cora had left me. Removed the original vehicle title, the corporate assignment slip, the asset sheet with my business EIN stamped at the bottom. I stacked them in order. Then I slid them into a thick, white envelope. Not the thin kind you lick, the kind you seal with a strip. I pressed it shut, slow and even. On the front, I wrote in block letters, "To be opened after 8:00 p.m. no name." No smiley face, no explanations. I placed it in my bag, not my purse. The brown satchel I used when Henrik and I used to meet clients in person. It still smelled like paper and old pine. I walked to the calendar by the fridge. Found the date. Saturday, 7:00 p.m. I circled it in black ink. Didn't write a name next to it. No event title. No reminder. Just the ring of ink closing in on itself. That evening, I made tea. Not coffee. It wasn't for drinking, just something to hold while I read over the scanned transcript one more time. Kayla's voice still sharp. I don't care whose name's on the paperwork. I saved a copy to a flash drive. Slipped it into a second envelope. No label. The burner clicked as it cooled. I poured the tea down the sink. Washed the cup. Dried it. Then I locked the drawer where I used to keep the spare key. Empty now, but still mine. The phone stayed quiet. No more texts. No more smiles. I didn't check Evan's social media. I didn't call Cora. I packed my clothes for the weekend 3 days early. Nothing formal, no jewelry, the keys to the SUV still not in my purse. I knew exactly where they were. As I zipped the bag closed, the sound echoed down the hall. Not sharp, not loud, just final. The doors opened before the music stopped. Kayla had just finished greeting guests, one hand on Ruth's shoulder, the other holding a glass she hadn't earned. The SUV sat out front, polished, angled so everyone could see it when they arrived. A uniform stepped in first. Then a man in a dark jacket with a company badge clipped to his lapel. The room shifted. "This won't take long," the officer said. Kayla laughed once. Too loud. "Is this a joke?" The corporate representative didn't look at her. He held a folder. White. Thick. Sealed. "We're here regarding the unauthorized use of a company vehicle," he said. "That vehicle is parked outside." The room went quiet, in pieces. Conversations fell apart. Glasses stopped midair. Kayla's smile slipped. "That's my car." The officer's voice stayed level. "Ma'am, the registered owner has filed a report." Evan stepped forward. "There must be a mistake. This is family." The representative opened the envelope. I walked in then. Not rushed, not late. Just on time. I didn't look at Kayla. Didn't look at Evan. My eyes went to the SUV through the glass, its hood catching the lights like it always had. I took a seat at the back. Set my bag down. Folded my hands. The representative cleared his throat. "Per the asset agreement, the property remains under Ms. Solberg's exclusive control." He paused. Let the sentence land. Kayla's breath came fast. "You can't," she agreed. "No," the officer said. She didn't. Ruth stepped behind a pillar. Her glass shook. Someone reached for her arm and missed. Evan looked around like he was searching for a script. "Mom," he said, turning toward me for the first time. "Say something." I didn't move. The representative continued. "We also have audio confirming acknowledgement of ownership disregard." He pressed play. Kayla's voice filled the room loud and careless. "I don't care whose name's on the paperwork." A few people gasped. Someone set a glass down too hard. It cracked. The officer nodded once. "Ma'am, we'll need the keys." Kayla's hands fumbled in her purse. Dropped lipstick. Dropped her phone. The keys clattered on the floor. I watched the SUV keys get lifted. Watched the valet look confused. Watched the truth settle. No one looked at me. Not then. The officer spoke again. The vehicle will be impounded pending review. Evan's shoulders slumped. He didn't argue. He didn't follow. I stood, picked up my bag, walked past the table where the cake waited untouched. At the door, I paused just long enough to hear the room exhale. Then I stepped out into the night and left before dessert was served. Knowing the quiet wouldn't end with me, I opened the hose valve, let the water run slow. Evan pulled up before I finished the front hedge. No knock, no text. Just the sound of his shoes scraping the path and his voice small, unfamiliar. Mom, please. I didn't know it would go this far. I kept watering the rose bed. The soil drank fast. I moved to the next patch. They sent Kayla papers, he said. Legal ones. There's a fine. Maybe more. The hydrangeas looked brittle from the heat. I didn't speak. Didn't lift my head. He stepped closer. They posted photos of her with the car. At the party. HR flagged it. My contract's under review. It's not just hers anymore. The shovel leaned against the porch rail. I reached for it. Not to dig, just to steady my hand. The metal was warm. She didn't mean he began, then stopped. Okay, maybe she did. I pressed the spout into the dirt. Let it flood slowly. Deep. You can say something, he said. I glanced at the weeds along the base of the fence. Grabbed one, yanked it clean. She's been crying, he added. Says she's scared. I kept my back to him. She's pregnant. The air caught for half a second, then passed. She wants to make things right. I coiled the hose, hung it back on the hook. Evan's voice dropped. Do you still have the title? Can we talk to someone? We'll do whatever. I stepped onto the porch, took off my gloves, brushed the dirt off my palms one tap at a time. Evan watched me the way a stranger might, like he was waiting for permission to recognize me again. I turned the doorknob, paused. Just say you don't hate me, he said. I didn't. I stepped inside, closed the door gently, not slammed, not locked, just closed. Inside, the air was cool. On the desk, the folder with my revised will, signed and notarized 2 weeks ago. Evan's name no longer listed. I had mailed copies to my lawyer, Cora, and the bank. Outside, I heard his car start, then stall, then start again. I walked to the window and pulled the curtain aside an inch. He sat with his hands gripping the wheel mouth, moving. Maybe a prayer, maybe a script. He didn't look back once. As he pulled away, the porch light flicked on behind me. I hadn't touched the switch. Motion sensor still worked. Still mine. In the silence that followed, I walked to the table and poured myself a cup of coffee. Not to drink, just to hold. The mug was warm weight, steady in my hand. The house didn't echo. Only outside did the night answer itself. I boiled the water myself. No machine. Opened the tin. Measured the grounds. Poured slow, steady, exact. The kitchen was clean. No dishes in the sink. No extra mugs. Just one on the table, ceramic, pale gray, chipped at the rim. I liked the chip. Sunlight touched the floor in strips through the blinds. I didn't adjust them. I poured. Steam curled up gently. The mug filled without spilling. I sat. No sound but the tick of the small wall clock and the faint rustle of trees outside. Across the street, the SUV sat where I'd parked it 3 weeks ago. No one had come for it. Not Evan. Not Kayla. Not a single knock. Not a single word. A few times, someone slowed near the curb, then moved on. I sipped. No sugar, no cream. Not hot enough to burn. Not cold enough to forget. On the counter behind me sat the folder. The red sticker on the tab read, "Done." I didn't reach for it. I knew what was in their final filings, the insurance closure, Cora's note, "Retain for your records." No action required. No action required. The sunlight edged closer to my feet. I stretched my legs a little, let my toes touch it. The phone didn't buzz. The porch didn't creak. The air didn't shift. The coffee stayed warm. No one had asked about Ruth's party since the incident. No one apologized. No one explained. But no one tried to take anything again. The SUV keys stayed where I put them, in the drawer, labeled, logged, locked. I poured the rest of the coffee into the mug. Didn't rush. Didn't brace. My hand didn't tremble. For the first time in months, the pour made no noise, no clatter, no spill, just weight and warmth. I sat with it, the mug in my hand, the window open, and no footsteps coming up the drive.